Well, there are many wonderful lessons that we can learn from the design and the construction of the tabernacle in the book of Exodus. But overarching them all is the fact that the tabernacle is not a permanent monument to God. It's a temporary dwelling that could be packed up and carried when God began to move. This God wanted to lead his people to their promised land. And the lesson for us today is be a mobile people. If you want to experience all God has for you, be ready to move when he says, move. Well, welcome to this week's Shabbat Shalom devotional, when I seek to share just a little inspiration and bring a little peace to the close of your very busy week. We took a break last week from our Torah readings in order to talk about Purim. So this week we're covering 2 weeks worth of Torah portions. So it's from Exodus 30, verse 11, all the way to the end of the book, chapter 40, verse 38. We are going to be talking a lot about we're going to be reading a lot about the building of the tabernacle this week, and exactly the way that the Israelites were instructed to build it, and also every article inside. But I find it interesting that God did not instruct them to build a permanent building that would be a monument to him. That's certainly what they were used to seeing in Egypt. No, God tells them to build a mobile dwelling, because this God is not going to stay in one place. He even instructed them to put permanent poles on the 2 sides of the Ark of the Covenant so it could easily be picked up and carried when God was on the move. Now you might be thinking, well, this is only because they weren't yet in the promised land. Well, possibly. But do you know that even after they entered the promised land, it was another several hundred years before they built a permanent building? And even when King David told God he wanted to build him a permanent house, God said, what do I need a house for? Of course, he did then let David's son Solomon build the temple in Jerusalem. But for hundreds of years, he had been meeting with his people in a temporary mobile tent called the tabernacle. So the tabernacle indicated that the God of Israel was on the move, and the people had better be prepared to move with him. It's very interesting to note also that both Abraham and Moses were men of an urban, cultured life who were called out of it and to follow God almost as a nomad, to follow this mobile God. So in fact, in the book of Genesis, when Abraham is first referred to as a Hebrew, it's not talking about his ethnicity or his language or his religion, as we tend to read back into that word. At the time of Abraham, that word Abiru meant a people that lived on the fringe of society. They were like a wandering people, a nomadic people. So God chose a wandering people, and in fact called them into a wandering life in order to follow him. The message for all of us is this: don't get stuck in your rut. Keep looking for the cloud and the pillar of fire, and if you see it begin to move, you'd better pack up and move with it, because your God is a God on the move. And with that, I wish you Shabbat Shalom.